Hi, welcome to the APLCrafts podcast, a podcast about knitting and crochet and other random things thrown in. My name is Alicia. Today is October 23rd, I think. I actually don't ever look at dates, which is bad, but I think when you are home all the time, it's not really as important. At least not for me. But anyway, moving on. As you can see, I'm still moving in. I got boxes in the background. What are you gonna do? It takes a while to move in, right? Or you can find me. You can find me on Facebook as APLCrafts. You can find me on Instagram as APLCraftsHandmade and Twitter as APL_crafts and on Ravelry as ChrisPaul97, and you can find all that information down below. So what I'm wearing, this is old actually, well, old-ish. I finished this several months ago. This is the Afetos shawl by Cartucha Knits. And actually it's one of my favorite shawls. I did a couple of knit-alongs this year, and my first time doing knit-alongs. And I think this was maybe the third shawl that I knit. And I'm so in love with it. Oh my goodness. I really like the style. It's asymmetrical and it has the stripes, and then it's got a lace portion, which I'm sure I've messed up royally. Still learning how to do lace, but I really love lace. And I wrote down the yarn because I remember last week I was talking about something else and I couldn't remember the yarn. But this is hawthorn in the white part, which you can't really see. Oh, a little bit. The white part is in their Jupiter speckle and their hawthorn speckle hand paint, and the pink one is their hawthorn multi Arletta. And the pink one has got like a little bit of orange and lilac and pink and white, and the white speckle one that you can't really see through here has orange and purple and dark purple, and I thought that it played really well with the Arletta. But it's really super comfortable. I know some people don't like hawthorn fingering. I think because maybe the superwash on it makes it feel to some people a little bit squeaky or plasticky, but I don't know, I find it pretty comfortable. I like it. So let's see, what else have I been working on the last 2 weeks? I made a couple of hats because I needed a new hat. Because if you've seen, I don't know if I have it over here. No, I don't. My first few videos that I made, I had this purple hat that you probably have seen them trending a little bit on Facebook or on Ravelry or whatever. And it's the kind that's got the rim, and then it's knitted, and then you have garter or reverse stockinette, and then knit, and then reverse stockinette all the way up. And if it squishes down, it's kind of like an accordion, but a hat. It's the best way I can explain it. Anyway, I lived in that thing for like a year and a half, and I was like, you know what? It's time for a new hat. And so I went through my stash, and I had a bunch of mandala yarn. I think it's from Lion brand. So I used that, and I don't know how you guys are with your mandala yarn, but I like to deconstruct it, which is totally not the point of mandala yarn, right? It's supposed to be just self-striping, and you know, it is what it is. You either work it from the outside of the ball or the inside of the ball. Me, because it's got such long portions before it changes color, I find it really useful for just like any other knitting where you're changing color, being able to change the color in a way I want. And so I just cut off portions of it. And I don't remember, I think this was a mix of Centaur and maybe Chimera on the mandala. I don't know. But the first one I made was just a little beanie. And I put some slip stitches in it, so those aren't holes. I don't know if you can see that. These aren't holes. These are little slip stitches that I did underneath instead of above, so that, because usually when you do slip stitches and color changes, that part, like I think it's the bottom color actually shows on the top color, but I didn't want that, so I just did it this way, and then regular decrease. And I swatched for this because I've never used, I've never knitted a hat with this before. So I found that it was about a fingering sock weight type yarn. So this is like an average adult size, maybe 21 inches around. So it's about 100 stitches that I cast on. I used a US 7 and just decreased every 10 stitches. And then I made another one. It's one of those cat hats, so if you put it on, does that, yeah. And what I did was I just you know, I kind of transitioned the colors going up to the top. What I like about this hat is I've never done a 3-needle bind off before, so that was a new one for me. And it makes like a little, I don't know if you could really see it, but it makes like a ridge when you do a 3-needle bind off, which when you flip it over creates that. I think that's so neat. So I think I'm gonna do all my little kitty hats like that now, because what I was doing was similar to the construction for the it's not similar, it is the same construction for the pussy hat for Women's March, and you just do a long rectangle and then you seam it together. This just seems easier, and I know the reason why they made it that way was for people who are new to knitting, or it's very beginner friendly, so it's just knitting and purling and knitting and purling. But if you want something that's like super fast and you just knit, 3-needle bind off, boom, you're done. So happy about that. I've made several things with deconstructed mandala. I've made 2 different triangle shawls, and I don't think they're on my project page. No, they're not. But yeah, that's my favorite way to use mandala yarn. And then you can just do it any colors you want, and you're not stuck with the schematic that they have, and it actually opens up possibilities. Now, the only downside to that is because for an acrylic yarn, mandala is a little bit, it's still affordable. It's like, I don't know, depending on where you are, anywhere from $5 to $6 a skein. But you have to buy a lot in order to make one project, but then you end up having other colors left behind that you can make into another project. So it comes out even, but if you're just wanting to make one project and deconstruct a mandala, you're basically buying 2 to 3 skeins more to get your project. But like I said, it balances out if you're going to make a couple more out of it. And these are all just the scraps from 3 different projects, or 2 to 3 different projects, so worked out for me. Okay, I did some work on my Assana wrap from Ambah O'Brien, and I'm at the second lace part. So I think the last time I showed you guys, I don't even think I may have just started the lace part. So this is the beginning, and the lace part, and then the body, and then the second lace part. Now, if you're familiar with the Assana wrap, you'll notice that this looks a little bit different, and that's because I can't leave a pattern alone, and I modified it. I mostly modified it because I'm using my own hand dyed in this project, And this is all I have left of For the Love of a Mermaid. Now, I could go into my stash and grab another skein, but I would prefer to sell that skein. So I would like to just keep it with this. So what I've been doing is I looked at the lace part before I cast it on. And then I took out 2 repeats in the stitching, so that makes it not as wide. And then, this is backwards, and then, so then I extended the lace part, which is so full of mistakes, so full. So don't even really pay attention to my lace. But I extended the lace part, because it's supposed to end like over here or something, that I added it. And then I cut down on the stripe because I was running out of the one of the contrasting colors for the stripe. And I didn't want to, I wanted to keep consistent. I didn't want to do more of the turquoise color just to save the other color. So I just kept this short. So that means with this blue part in the lace, I'm going to be extending that. Probably a whole nother set of lace repeats, if not 2 whole sets of lace repeats, and then do the decrease at the end, and hopefully I'll have enough. If not, then the tail end on the other side I'm going to do with this color, which is one of the stripy colors in here, and I think that will look fine because it's at the tail end, so it'll just look like a design feature. So yep, and all this is in, like I said, my hand dyed, and all of these are untreated merino. Let me show you the blue. That's the lace part. And I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, but it's like deep blues and little hints of purple in there as well. And this is all fingering weight. And the original pattern calls for, did I write it down? Hedgehog fibers, and there's skinny singles and Madeline Tosh light fingering. And of course I'm using my untreated merino. And the pattern uses US 4s and I'm using US 5. Generally when I am knitting from a pattern, I'll go 1 to 2 needle sizes up because I'm a tight knitter, and that just kind of keeps the gauge similar. Yeah, and then sometimes, like if I'm making a garment, I'll just look at the math of the pattern, and then I usually end up having to just do my own thing anyway and just follow their pattern as a guideline, mostly because I'm plus size, and usually those patterns don't, the patterns that I'm knitting don't go to my size, or because I'm not proportioned the way it is in the pattern, I have to adjust one place and not the other place. And so I'm pretty good at just looking at the guideline, like looking at the construction and then guidelining it for how I'm gonna knit it. So that being said, even with shawls, sometimes I have to do a swatch, and it's a half-ass swatch, I'll be honest. I don't do a full-on swatch. So what I do to swatch, just to see how the drape is going to be on a shawl, I automatically go a size up because I know it's going to be tight. And then I'll do 2-3 inches going this way, and then maybe 2-3 inches going up. And it's just enough for me to get a feel for the texture of the yarn I'm using, see if I need to go up another needle size or whatever. Because what happens is if I use, you know, because a lot of people go, oh, why are you swatching for a shawl? It's a shawl. Well, because I'm such a tight knitter, if I go with the size that the pattern is suggesting, it ends up being small. Case in point, my Lionberry, I think and I don't remember who, Narniel of Endor designed the Lionberry. Great pattern. I used the size that, I believe I used the size she suggested. And it came out a little bit small. No, I did go a size up, but I didn't swatch for that one. I figured, okay, well, it's a size up, it should be fine. And it ended up being a tiny bit small. So that's kind of why I swatched, because of those reasons. It's still usable. I wore it. You can see it in I have it in my project page. You can see it there. So, and that was living, the Assana wrap was living in my alien bag, little UFOs, my aliens. I still love this bag. I will love this bag till the day I die. You can find, I don't know if you could find the bag anymore on Etsy. It's not a shop that I normally go to. It's just one of those things. Oh, I'm looking for a bag. I've happened to see aliens, and so I was like, I need it now. Yeah. And the maker of that bag is ZoesBoutique, I believe. And then, if you saw the last episode, oh, by the way, tangent. I've noticed that I've had a few new subscribers. Welcome. So glad that you just stopped by, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you for continuing to watch. Okay. Oh yeah. Newbie. There we go. It is what it is. Actually, I think I'm gonna save what I was talking about for last week later. Another thing that I started. I'm also a crocheter, obviously, because I started every podcast by saying knitting and crochet. But I haven't really shown anything crochet since I started this podcast. Unless it was, I think I showed a little bit of the autism blanket and dishcloths. But I do actually do projects, like, projects. So I was itching to crochet something substantial because it's been, oh my God, like a year or something since I've crocheted anything. And this is called the, I didn't write it down because I rock, sprig leaf shawl or something like that. And it's definitely gonna have to get blocked. It's not done, it's only halfway. But let me see if I can, oh goodness, this is awkward. Okay, there we go. Yeah. And this is in My Melody by Wolltraum. And the colorway is Moonlight Sonata. And it's 150 grams, 750 meters, 50% cotton, 50% acrylic. It's in German. And it's a gradient, so it goes from this blue and then slowly starts transitioning to a darker blue, and then from there it goes to like this navy sapphire blue to black. And the yarn is, I don't know if you can see that, it's like 3 strands of color. And that's how they do the gradient, which actually, I should have realized they were going to do the gradient this way, but I wasn't thinking about it when I bought it. So what happens is you go from this light color, and then it goes to one color of the darker color, and it's knotted in. It's secure enough, I tested it, but it's knotted in. And then it goes to 2 strands of the dark color on the bottom here, and that's knotted in, and then so on and so forth. And it's super long. It's a free pattern that I found on Ravelry, and it goes to the person's website. And like I said, I didn't write it down because, so prepared. But already I had to modify it. But I had to modify it in a different way because I still needed to do the drape. So, as I'm chaining the foundation chain, I think I started with a F hook. And it was too big, and it calls for 386 stitches, and it was like way out, and I was like, okay, no, this thing is a shawlette style. It's not a full-on deep shawl. I'm not needing something that's longer than my body. That's kind of cray. So then I went down to an e-hook and cut it by 100 chains. And it's still long, but it seems to work. So, you know, it starts here, and then it goes, and it goes, and then there you go. And you're working your way down to decrease it. So I think I've got, I don't know, ooh, 20 rows left or something. And then you pick up where your decreases are and do a border. So it's nice, it's easy, it's a break from knitting because I've been, you know, pretty much straight knitting for a year, and I really needed to crochet something. So that's what I'm using. And I found this on Etsy. I'm not sure how that shop works. I'm thinking because it took a month for me to get the yarn that you put the order in and then they're getting it from Germany and then it's shipping to the States and then it goes to you from the States to wherever you are inside the country. I'm thinking that's how it works. This yarn is really beautiful, but I'm finding that because of the 3 strands that make up this yarn, every time I hook, I'm catching one of the strands and separating it. So it's like, I have to stop, I have to pull out, and then I have to do it all over again, and then I'll go a little while, and then I'll end up splitting it, and it's like, oh my goodness, so frustrating. I'm like, I'm definitely not knitting with this. I don't know if any of you have ever used this yarn. If you have and you've never had a problem, hey. And if you have had a problem, then you understand my pain. It's beautiful, beautiful yarn, but yeah, it's the catching on and splitting it is a little stressful for me. Anyway, now if you saw my last podcast, you saw that red shirt that I was wearing, the Cowl Shell by Myrna Batten, and loved the way it came out, but I didn't realize that with superwash, and if you hang a garment on superwash, it's just going to stretch. And so the armholes stretched way down. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am going to have to reknit this like nobody's business. So I made a little video of my little journey cutting my cowl shell and reknitting it. And so I'm going to play that for you now. So I finally had time to sit down and start some knitting surgery on that cowl shell that I showed on the last episode. And I figured while I'm working on this, I might as well video it and kind of show you my process. Now, I'll put the disclaimer out there that I've never done this before. Everything that I'm doing is pretty much from what I've seen from other podcasters and other tutorials during my knitting journey, but I haven't actually looked anything up to do what I'm doing right now on this shirt. And I'm also going to put out there, this is not a tutorial. I'm just showing you what I'm doing, and then maybe you can learn something from it. Who knows? Okay, so what I did, I'm almost done, but I started in the middle of the back of the shirt because that's where I actually started my rounds. That's not per pattern, it's just what I did. And if you see here, I may have to pull this back a little bit. I have nobody hold this, so this is all me. But you see these V's. What you want to do is get your needle in or your lifeline in or whatever you're going to do to catch the stitches. When you've got your knit stitches, they look like this. You want to put it through the right side of the V. Don't pay attention to my nails. You want to put it through the right side of the V to pick up all your stitches. And I don't know if I'm picking up my garter part right, but I'm gonna go with it for now. Okay, it looks like I actually got it done right, because if you remember, when you knit in a round, it's a big old spiral, and so I started here with this needle went all the way around, came back this way, and boom. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut probably 2 rows up and then unravel until I get to here and then re-knit everything, because if you see those armholes are way too big. They're about, I measured it out, and they're still about 1.5 to 2 inches longer than I would have liked. Cat hair. So I'm going to unravel all this and re-knit it and get it 2 inches shorter. This is why I don't do tutorials. So I knew my garter section here might be a little iffy trying to pick up the stitches where I cut. And of course I dropped them, which is why this is here. But then as I'm picking through all this yarn so I can start knitting, I'd have to like move stuff around, but just an example. So I've had like random stitches here and there, not here, but on the needle, that ended up being dropped. So I probably should have lifelined first and then cut and then put my needle through. So instead of doing that, now I have to lifeline down here, take this needle out, unravel everything. No, lifeline. Put the needle through and then unravel everything, I think. Yeah, we'll see. This is why you have extra yarn. If you don't have enough yarn to finish your project, don't ever do knitting surgery, because it'll be a disaster. I'm not worried about my issues here yet because I do have a little extra yarn. Plus I'm also taking away from like what I have. So. Okay, so I've got my shirt separated, and you see this hot mess over here. Got most of the yarn, and then this is all, I don't even know what to call this. And then the shirt, and what I'm doing here, I have a bunch of these tendrils that I don't know. This is why I don't do tutorials, guys. No tutorials here. I'm just showing you my hot mess from my knitting surgery. So what I'm doing now is I'm going through and I'm knitting back in all of these tendrils. I'm gonna go around, do all that, and then hopefully this will be all set up so that I can add these in first, and then if I need to, I'll use these for the upper arms, since I don't need that much yarn, or maybe for the short row shaping in the front. Okay, so how far I've gotten from there. I got the back done, and I'm working on the front. And I'm actually maybe about 1 inch before getting to the part where it goes like this. And one thing I noticed that I've actually heard a lot of podcasters talking about, but I never experienced it, because the only time I've ever ripped anything back and on a finished project or even a half finished project was usually acrylic, and I never had this problem with acrylic, but I've never done it with wool. And I'm noticing, and I don't know if it'll pick up. No, it's not really picking up. No, it's not picking up. Where I ripped back and above the lifeline, all the knitting is nice and even and straight, and all the knitting up here is really crinkly because, I'll show you the yarn. When you rip back, the yarn ends up doing this, which I know it's the same thing as knitting off of a sock blank. And so I'm pretty positive this is just going to block out, because a lot of people that I've heard talk about that, they say after they wet block it, you know, the fibers relax and then it's fine. So I'm hoping that it's fine enough as it's butting up against the part that I didn't rip back, so that it's not so easy noticeable. But I should be done with this week. I knitted all day on it yesterday. Lovely Sunday where I just knit all day. It's kind of rare, especially right now since I needed a break from doing house stuff and cleaning and painting and putting away stuff and figuring all that out. So yeah, I really love this pattern. The yarn is Hawthorne again, and what I did was I transitioned it, so much like I did with the mandala hats. So I've got the one color here, which I wrote down, Eugene, Hawthorne, tonals, and Eugene. They have like 3 different types of Hawthorne. And then it transitions into Rockaway. I think I'm definitely gonna knit this again. I don't know if I'm gonna use the same yarn next time. I really like the way Hawthorne works up, and I really like the way, like the I like the tonal. I like the little patches of dark and light, and you know, even if it pools, which you can kind of see a little bit if you look hard enough, it just blends so well together. So I'll probably do another dark color. I don't look good in light colors, except for this pink. But like as a shirt, you know, light colors aren't really my jam. But these dark, rich jewel tone colors, like, perfect. So what I might do is see if they have like a really dark blue or dark green or something, and then do the same kind of thing with the transition and make another shirt. I know there's another pattern, and I don't know who it's by, on Ravelry that's similar to the Cowl Shell, but I think it might be, the top might be a halter top style. The shirt's not a halter top, but the top, like, I guess the way it's knitted, it doesn't come apart in the back, but it goes around like that. But it's got the Cowl Shell type style in the front too, and I might knit that. We'll see. So since this is my second garment, I'm kind of getting on the garment train now, which is, you know, fun because it opens up a whole new world of possibilities. So I'm looking on Ravelry and I'm finding all these cardigans and all these sweaters and shirts and tank tops, and I'm just like, oh my god, I could do all these things now. And yeah, I'm gonna have a whole wardrobe, y'all. I'm excited. Anyway, so that's my knitting surgery, and hopefully I'll be done by, I should be done by next time I podcast. I don't see why it wouldn't be. What else do I want to say about this? I think that's it. Really, it's just, you know, a reknit. So it's going really fast because I only had to do like the last 12 inches of the garment, really, if that, more like 10 inches. So that's nice. And that's living in my Stitches by Laura bag. And it's a Scrappy bag that she custom made for me. She had, oh my goodness, I think she had like a couple of garbage bags full of scraps. And I was like, make me a Scrappy bag. And so she did. And you can find her on gypsyspoonful.com, and I'll put that down on the bottom. And I'll also put the alien bag link down on the bottom too. And I think that's it, according to my notes that I actually did write. Yep. Okay, well, I'm done with all the nitty parts of the podcast, so I'm gonna go into what I have new in my shop. So if you don't want to see anything else, well, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it, and tell all your friends. If this is your first time watching the video, please subscribe. That would be awesome. As always, I'll never ask you to like the video, because if you're like me, you only like videos for tutorials so you can go back and find everything. But if you're not one of those people, hey, feel free to like the video as well. Okay, so as far as shop stuff, just going to bring out a few of the newer things that I have. So if you saw earlier, I was showing you that turquoise looking yarn, and so I've got more of that. This is on untreated merino. It's actually softer than that color that was in the shawl. Cotton Candy Kisses on fingering, 437 yards. And so it's got, because it's softer tones, so you've got darker and lighter parts of violet and little pops of green, and let's see if I can show you here. Little bits of yellow, like a yellow green. So that's Cotton Candy Kisses. And then the other color that I have in that shawl, For the Love of a Mermaid, so I made more of that. Again, untreated merino, fingering weight, 437 yards. And it's just deep blues and violet and aqua. That's a nice little variegated. I also have more tea roses. This is on my Superwash Polworth DK. And it's bright pinks with pops of purple, which they're all hiding in the skein. And you can see them in there. Here we go. You know, pops of purple, a little bit of purple speckling intermixed with the bright pink. That's on Polworth DK. And then a new one, another new one that I've got for this Christmas is Blue Christmas. And you can see the pinks on here. Yeah. So it is merino nylon and lurex, which is like a stellina, but actually has, I've heard it, some people say it has more shine to it. So dark blues, aquas, light blue, a little bit of white, pinks, a little bit of purple, and that's on fingering weight. And that's it. You can find all my yarn on APLCraftsHandmade at fibercrafty.com, and I'll put that below. And you'll find a lot of the same yarns on Fibercrafty at my Etsy shop, APLCraftsHandmade.etsy.com. The reason why I've got two different shops is because some people feel safer being on a familiar website like Etsy. Fibercrafty is new, and I think it's awesome. They've been around, if I remember correctly, a little over a year, maybe 2 years now. It's all fiber related, so it's anything you're looking for as far as like project bags, stitch markers, roving, different types of yarn, hand spun. You'll find all of that over there. So I think that's an awesome website if you're just looking for fiber stuff. So that's why I'm there. And then I also have an Etsy, so you can just take your pick. Both of those shops, I've got a $3 coupon that's listed in the shop. Knit stuff, all in caps. And yeah, because I'm, so savvy when it comes to coupon names. But you'll find that there, and I'll list that on the bottom. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. Have a great time knitting, guys. See you later. Bye.